Florentino Perez has not given up on the Super League. It's been a decade's worth project, and he's not going to give up on it after just a couple of days. Every club has withdrew from it except Real Madrid and Barcelona. In fact, according to ESPN, Barcelona president Laporta says that the Super League is a necessity. This might be because of the debt Barcelona are in, and the Super League would save them from that, although Juventus and Arsenal are in similar forms of debt, yet they pulled out. To understand why the Super League will likely happen eventually, we have to understand the origins of the newly constructed competition. And the root of all the current ideas in modern football can be traced back to one match, believe it or not. To think that a single two-legged tie inspired the complete remake of football seems absurd, but there is quite a bit of truth behind it. The European Cup tie between Real Madrid and Napoli, first round in 1987, is what changed football forever and is still changing it. The first leg ended with a 2-0 Madrid win, and the second leg ended with a 1-1 draw, meaning Madrid went on to the next round. As a result, Napoli were knocked out in the first round itself. Before we go through what that match and the result meant for the European Cup, let's go through what the European Cup actually was and how it was formatted. Created in 1955, it was the first competition to be officially governed by UEFA, which allowed a greater pool of teams to participate. The only teams allowed in the European Cup were the league winners from leagues across Europe. So if Juventus won in Italy, and Real Madrid won in Spain, and if Manchester United won in England, and so forth, they would be the teams representing their leagues in the European Cup. It was a direct knockout tournament, similar to tournaments we have today, like the Coppa Italia, Copa del Rey, or the FA Cup. All of these clubs were given equal representation as they all earned direct qualification to the round of 32. Only winning the league was a requirement for participation. Until the Madrid-Napoli tie, it was very rare to see two world-class teams play each other in the first round of the European Cup, and they produced one thriller of a game, with high intensity by both teams. Two world-class teams meeting this early on was rare, and it happened in 1987, which sparked some changes. Due to the knockout style of this grand competition, it meant that one of these two world-class teams of the European Cup would be eliminated in the first round itself, which was not normal, and it wasn't right for teams that good to be knocked out of the tournament basically before it's even started. The AC Milan owner, Silvio Berlusconi, had similar thoughts, and was afraid his team would be eliminated early on. This is when Berlusconi proposed the idea of a certain European Super League, all the way back in 1987. UEFA rejected this proposal, but not entirely. They did take into account that bigger teams could get eliminated in the earlier rounds due to knockout styles and matchups, so they tried some innovation. In Model 1 of the Champions League, the quarterfinals and the semifinals were replaced with two groups of 4 teams. This meant that there was a less likely chance of upsets, and more prestigious European clubs were more likely to go farther in the tournament as they would be able to sustain performances throughout the group stages. There were some changes made to the European Cup over the years, which was now known as the Champions League post-1992. In the 1994-95 season, it was established that the group stage would occur in the first round now. In the 1996-97 season, the Bosman ruling was enforced, meaning that players could move to a new club at the end of their contract without their old club receiving a fee. Players could now agree to a pre-contract with another club for a free transfer if the player's contract with their existing clubs has 6 months or less remaining. There will be no restriction on the number of foreign players playing for a club as well. Effective from the 1997-98 season, the league runner-ups will now be able to play in the Champions League. So if AC Milan, Barcelona, and Liverpool all came second in their league, they will now be allowed to play in the Champions League. And from the 1999-2000 season, up to 4 teams will be allowed to participate from the Italian, German, and Spanish top flight leagues. So what did these changes mean for the game as a whole? Well, for starters, when group stages were introduced by UEFA, it was to ensure that the more prestigious European clubs had a greater chance of making it further into the competition. Not to mention that more games for those clubs means more money and revenue for them. Constantly adding slots for bigger clubs while forcing the teams in the lower leagues out diluted the competition. Having more prestigious European clubs in the Champions League made football more entertaining, but some people argue that the competition distanced itself from its core values. In fact, in the 2006 Premier League, 5 Premier League clubs qualified for the Champions League, which is 25% of all the Premier League teams. The new format of the Champions League being proposed by UEFA for the 2024 season has been heavily criticized. But if you think about it, the new changes proposed by UEFA for the 2024 season have very similar intentions that were made 20 years ago. For example, it provides an increased number of spots for elite clubs. In 1997, we saw runner-ups from leagues were being allowed in the UCL group stages. In 2024, there might be a rule that will make 2 spots for elite clubs, which will be decided by UEFA. For example, if Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, and the Wolves make top 4 in the Premier League, then UEFA could add Arsenal and Chelsea if they wanted to. UEFA are looking deeper into this rule, and it might or might not happen. Another example of how this new format follows the intention of 20 years ago is that more matches will be played per team with a more or less league format. This is due to avoid group of death scenarios, such as 2019 with Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, and Inter Milan, or in 2020 with United, Leipzig, and PSG. And also, again, they will get more revenue due to more games being played by the big clubs. So what the Champions League is doing here is evolving on the same principles that it was built on, and the newly proposed structure will enhance these changes. Now, the current narrative that the mainstream media and the fans possess is that UEFA is greedy. And although this might be true, clubs are struggling financially at high levels, and this might be the way for clubs like Real Madrid, Juventus, and Barcelona to get back on their feet. So it makes sense if they're all in for an idea like this. So to put it all in perspective, the European Cup was initially a display of all the league champions competing against each other, but it has evolved in such a way that the first place in the Dutch league is not guaranteed, but the fourth place in the French league is. Taking all of this into consideration, I think it's pretty safe to say that the European Super League will happen. We are slowly but surely heading towards it, or heading towards something very similar. In fact, according to journalist Paul Tenorio, all the Super League clubs are still working behind the scenes. They are confident of a new form of the Super League that the fans will apparently accept. Florentino Perez has publicly come out and said that the 12 founding clubs truly believed in this project, and they will keep working on it as the idea is not dead. Perez has also reminded us that the 12 clubs signed a binding contract, so if this project didn't work out, something similar will. He is very, very confident about this. The teams breaking away from the Super League wasn't the end of it. If you thought we saw the last of all of it, then you are very mistaken. In fact, the drama is only just beginning.